This is the Console Killer, and welcome to my tutorial of the Streets of Rage 3 playthrough with Zan on normal mode. And I figured I would try to bang out a tutorial with this game, and we'll see what I remember as I'm watching the video. I beat this a few months ago, so it should be pretty fresh. I'll try to give any tips. There's not a huge amount to break down in this playthrough, but it's basically, you know, basic crowd control, things like that, similar to the Double Dragon playthrough. Except this is much harder. This is the hardest beat-em-up that I think I've beaten before, so it's definitely tough. For a console beat-em-up, it's especially difficult on the default normal mode. If you want an easier version, play the Japanese version, Bare Knuckle 3. And that's a little bit too easy, whereas this American version was overly difficult for a Streets of Rage game, and just to beat 'em up in general, it's pretty fucking hard for a beat 'em up. Though I'm sure some of those arcade beat 'em ups are very hard too. If you try to beat them on 1 credit or even 3 credits, I'm sure they would be. There's some of them would be very hard. I would like to try that sometime as well. But yeah, for this, I ended up going with Zan because I talked to, I believe his name on YouTube was Anthropants, and I recommend checking out his channel because he does live streams playing through these games with no death and crazy shit like that. And I definitely won't be doing a no death run on this game. You know, not even close. But yeah, he recommended this character as, you know, probably the best choice if you're just looking to beat the game. And that's all I was trying to do. I just wanted to beat it. So, as I watch this, I'll try to remember exactly what made Zan, you know, so good. But I think it was because he had, if I remember right, he was able to really combo guys and get most of their life out. See, especially that electric move that you saw me use, that does massive damage. You can do that after a few hits. You know, you can finish off with that electric move, and I'm not sure if it wastes your life bar, that electric move. It may waste a little bit of your life bar when you use it. I'll have to watch the video and check, because like I said, it has been a few months since I played this. Yeah, it looks like it wastes a little bit of your life, but very small amount when you use it. So I remember using it heavily, especially when I had multiple guys lined up, and it really finishes off guys' life and gets them out of there fast. So it's a great move. It has a long reach too, as you can see, so you can sometimes get multiple guys lined up and take them out, which is great. That move is good too, the one where he does like where he shocks his entire body. That can be useful sometimes, but yeah, that electric move is very good. You just have to be careful not to overuse it if your health is low, but you know, you do get some health pickups. So once you get an idea for where they're at, you know, you'll be alright. It's going to take some attempts anyway to beat this game. I think it took me 5 or 6 full attempts, which by 1 attempt I mean exhausting all my lives and continues being 1 attempt. I think I got it either on my 5th or 6th full attempt. But I also played a hack of the game, which was an easier version of the game, because you could use one of the boss characters, and they're a lot more powerful, so that made it a lot easier. But that did give me a feel for the layout before I started working on the regular game. So I'd actually recommend playing one of those hacks where you can play as Ash or Shiva or one of the bosses, because that'll give you a good feel for the layout, and then you can go into this and play this, and you know, you should have a better feel for it. But yeah, using his throw, like you see, to throw the enemies into each other is great for crowd control. It gets them off of you and keeps them out of the way. So definitely be utilizing that a lot. I guess the only thing I can't really say right now while I'm narrating this is I don't remember exactly what you press to do all the moves. But all you have to do is go on GameFAQs, you know, and you can look up all the moves for the characters. So I would recommend definitely get familiar with all the moves, you know, so you know what you have available. But yeah, Zan has a great reach, even his regular attacks, which makes him, you know, really good. I think he's a very good character for a first playthrough. See, like how the guys were lined up there, and I used that electric, that took out like that whole row of guys. That's the kind of shit you want to use, because enemies do come real fast from different directions. They really will overwhelm you in this game if you're not careful. It's a very aggressive game, and the enemies take a lot of hits compared to the other Streets of Rage games. So as a result, it's much harder, and there's many more enemies than you would usually have in a Streets of Rage game as well. So it's the combination of all those factors that make it difficult. You won't really see the enemies, taking turns as much to hit you. They pretty much will just all come at you. And the women with the whips are very dangerous because they have that long range attack, so it's good to try to kill them fast. I definitely try to prioritize targets. When I see a harder enemy that can cause problems, I'll try to take them out first usually. But, yeah, I mean, pretty general information, but, all those little things do make a big difference. Yeah, that electric arm works really good on Shiva. It definitely damages this boss a lot. But I definitely didn't master all the bosses or anything. I was just able to do well enough to beat the game. Though some bosses went down really fast, so, I think there was some good boss fights. But the main thing was I didn't lose a life on this boss. If I had, then I probably would have restarted the playthrough. Because it's really not worth losing a life on the first level. I would recommend using save and load state on an emulator to practice the bosses individually, though. I wouldn't say you really need to on the levels themselves. I don't think I practiced the levels at all. I mean, I practiced them in the sense that I died and I had to attempt it again, and I learned it that way, but I don't think I ever used save or load state to actually practice the levels. Except I did when I was playing 2 players with Bob Ruppels, which for some reason 2 players seemed way harder, because when I played this by myself I did a lot better. But because on 2 players you can't hit each other, which makes it very difficult. You got to constantly watch out for each other, and while you're trying to avoid each other, you end up getting fucked up. So it's tough. I would recommend playing the game solo first before you try to do it on 2 players. Get familiar with it. But and if you play on easy, you won't get to see the whole game. So you have to play on normal to see the entire game. It's one of those kind of games that ends early on the earlier difficulty settings. Yeah. So for the motorcycle guys, as you saw, you jump and just do a regular hit, and that's really the only way to take them out. You have to use a jump attack to take these assholes out. So that's all you got to do. But yeah, when I played 2 players, we were using save and load state to practice the actual levels as well as the bosses. But that was a while ago. But when I played on my actual playthrough, when I worked on the game myself, I only used save and load state for the bosses. There was a few bosses that I was wasting a lot of lives on, so I used it for the bosses that gave me the most trouble. And that way, when I got to them, I wasn't unfamiliar with what to do. I had an idea of how to to do well. I can't say I didn't necessarily master them in practice, but I got good enough to where I didn't think they were going to cause me a big problem with my lives. If you want to see somebody master this game, check out Anthropant's channel and check out his Streets of Rage 3 runs and shit, Beating the game, on the hardest difficulty, I think, without any deaths at all, and I think with all the characters, complete mastery of the game. Extremely impressive. And this is just a regular, just me beating a hard game is all it is. But it was a satisfying game to beat. I enjoyed completing it. It wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. For some reason, I thought the game was a lot harder than it was. And that could have been because when I played on 2 players, it felt much fucking harder. So I guess I may have just assumed when I tried that recently that the game was really, you know, a lot harder. But it really wasn't that bad. I mean, especially with Zan. Zan was a great character to use. Yeah, and for this boss fight, I know if you kill one of the guys early, the other enemy will actually leave, I think. But I don't remember. You know, it's been a while. So I know this tutorial's not going to be, you know, as good as it could be because I haven't played in a while. But I'll try to remember what the fuck is going on as I watch it. Okay, see, so you don't even need to deal with the kangaroo. All you really have to do is take out his trainer, the clown guy. If you take out that clown first, the kangaroo will leave. So, unless you're trying to unlock the special characters to use in the game, which that's another thing, then, you know, kill the trainer first. Just get him out of there. You don't have to, you know, if you can avoid the kangaroo, just avoid it. I think I may have been trying to avoid him, but he was being pretty aggressive, and he got in my way a lot, so I just said, fuck it. I think I just, you know, decided to hit him a lot. I didn't really have to do that much damage to him, though. I could have probably focused on the other guy more. Now, the next boss coming up, these next bosses coming up can be very hard. But there's a way that it's not too difficult, you know, but I would still recommend practicing the method that I'm going to show, you know, in the video. I would recommend, you know, trying to practice it, and I'll explain exactly what it is when I have an idea. I kind of remember what I did, but I have to see it again, and I'll remember. But yeah, that move is great. I love that electric move with the, you know, when you line it up like that, and you can just... also, you know, his running dash move is very useful to give yourself some breathing room. As in most of these, I guess you could say newer beat-em-up games that have running dash types of moves. Not really that new, but the older ones didn't have that, like Final Fight and, you know, Streets of Rage 1 didn't have any running moves or anything like that. But, I mean, they have been around for a while. But yeah, most of this is just going to come down to practice and pretty much having an idea of what's coming up next. And just getting, you know, the general skill of just becoming skilled at crowd control is what's going to carry you through most of the game. Not even so much the layout, but just being able to adapt in the situation. And, you know, using your different moves effectively to get guys off of you. You always want to give yourself breathing room, you know, so you can deal with the enemies. Because they will try to really crowd you. And, you know... try to fuck you over, so you gotta, you know, be careful about that. Try not to get cornered. And, you know, you should be the one cornering enemies and getting them into groups, and then when you group them together, you know, use that electric arm and hit them all at once. And that'll, you know, you'll be taking care of guys a lot faster. Now, this boss is tough. These 2 women are tough, so for these, let's see, yeah, basically what you do is you kind of walk towards them and it will jump over you. You see how they, when you walk toward them, a lot of times they'll jump over you. They won't always do it, but that's what you want them to do. You kind of want to walk at them and let them jump over you. Then you grab them and throw them, or you can do what I'm doing here, which is a little more of aggressive playing style, you know, because I got more aggressive with them at this point. But if you want an easier way to do it, just walk at them, you know, let them jump over you and then try to throw them after they jump over you. That, you know, or use that electric arm like I'm using to hit them after they jump over. You don't have to throw them. You know, you don't have to try to grab them every time. You can just use that electric arm with Zan. Maybe that might be the easiest way to do it. I mean, it drains a little bit of your life, but it will damage them a lot. And you may lose a life anyway on this fight because it's a tough fight, which it's okay if you lose a life here. It's not a huge deal. You know, you have plenty of opportunities. Like, you don't have to play this game perfectly to beat it. But you don't want to fuck up on, you know, you just don't want to fuck up on the easier parts. And try to avoid that. But Yeah, see, I lost a life here, and I mean, I was decent at them, but not good enough. And once you're down to one of them, it's much easier, you know, because they'll pretty much always jump over you, and you can just either grab them or hit them with that electric arm. Either way. That's about all you got to do for that. But yeah, you definitely want to practice it because it can be a little tricky. But once you get in a rhythm with them, they're not bad. You know, you do get in a rhythm with how they jump over you, and you can grab them, and you'll get used to their movement after a while. But they're mainly, you know, that'll come with a little bit of practice. You probably won't have to practice them that much, but you should practice them a little just so you have an idea what you have to do when you get there. Because you don't really want to try to improvise on a boss fight in this game and waste 3 or 4 lives. It's, you know, it's not going to be worth it. Because you're going to want those lives later. Yeah, and you know, this is more of the same. I mean, there's no new enemies that are going to make you change your tactics here. You know, the only real thing here is, you know, you just don't want to get hit by those barrels that come out down in parts of the level. I mean, that's, you know, pretty fucking basic, but yeah, you know, you want to try to avoid it. You can also punch the barrels into enemies if you want to be a little stylish. But most of the time, I didn't really have a use for that. As mentioned, my only goal, my first time through a game, is merely just to beat it. Whether it be a challenge or a hardest mode or whatever it may be, you know, I try to find what feels like the most effective way to win, you know. And this was my first and only time through the main, the official version of the game, the U.S., the official, you know, my official playthrough of the U.S. version of the game. Because I played through a hack, as I mentioned. I played through a few hacks, actually, before this. So I got a feel for the layout, even though it was much easier to play as Shiva and Ash. I mean, they really destroy the enemies, because they have these infinite combos that will just combo each guy to death, which is pretty fucking insane. So, you know, I mean, that's not going to be the best way to learn, but it actually worked out well for me, because after playing through with that, I had a feel for the, you know, the amount of enemies I was going to be dealing with and the types of enemies and all that shit. So I had a good feel for the game. And it didn't take, you know, I was surprised it only took me 5 or 6 full attempts to beat it. I'll have it in the description exactly how, you know, the details of how long everything took me and everything. I think I have it written in the description of my original video. I just haven't read over it, but I'm going to copy and paste it in here when I post this up. Because, of course, this is a playthrough that I already did, and I'm doing commentary over it now. So it's by no means a live playthrough. Probably won't do too many of those unless the game is easy, because, you know, I like to concentrate on the game. I don't really like to talk while I'm playing the game. A hard game anyway, you know, it's a little distracting. Yeah, for this part, you know, just be patient. Don't try to get too many hits in on the wall, you know what I mean? Just make sure you hit that thing enough for it to go back. Get a few hits in and then turn around and get ready to punch that. Because if you get sloppy, that's what happens. But yeah, it's very easy, but you still don't want to get sloppy like I did here. You know, you want to like be a little bit patient. I was trying to rush it, which I didn't need to be impatient, but because I just didn't feel like taking my time. But yeah, all you got to do is turn around and rapidly punch, and when the thing comes back, it'll get punched back. So there's not any real skill or timing to this, unless you do it the speedrun way, where the guy just uses dash attacks and blasts through the barriers. I don't know how the fuck they do that, but it's impressive to watch. I think that guy Anthropants does it, and it's very, very cool. You know, very cool technique. But yeah, you're not going to see any speedrun techniques in this fucking video. That's for damn sure. But yeah, that's all there is to that. Very simple. Probably one of the easiest parts in the game. So yeah, this part you just want to be careful, of course, because you don't want to get too close to those edges, you know. But you want to use these edges, as you'll see I use, because you can really end fights fast if you throw these guys into the pit, you know. So, you know, I would say, you know, use it heavily if you can. You know, get rid of the enemies, just, you know, fucking throw them out. You'll end it real fast that way. That's what I like to do for this part. You know, so using the dash and attacks when they're at the ledge. Just like I said, if you're going to use dash and attacks, be careful not to get yourself in a bad situation near the edge or go off yourself. But pretty standard for this kind of game, you know, the edges and such. But as you can see, you can really end these fights fast by getting everybody, you know, out of here. You'll save yourself a lot of health, and you know, you also earn 1-ups from points. So you know, that's another thing that's going to help out a lot. You'll earn lives. So even if you lose a life here and there, you're not going to be in too much trouble. Yeah, and now, luckily, that doesn't take all your health when you fall into a pit like in previous games. So, but I did lose most of my life from that, which was not good. So, you know, and then I got killed. So, yeah, it can lead to your death. You don't definitely not want to do it. But like I said, if you lose a life here and there, it's not a big deal. What's a big deal is you don't want to have sections where you drain like 2 or 3 lives or more, you know, in a single section. You really don't want to have any areas like that. Because, you know, you don't really have lives to donate like that. So, I mean, they do give you a good amount of lives. I think you got 3 continues, and you do get a decent amount of lives. But still, I mean, this is a game where you can die fast, you know, if you're not on top of shit. And there's some tricky parts, so definitely I would say, you know, try to get parts down decently enough to where you're not draining your lives. And of course, I always save health items until I need them, because until you scroll the screen, you know, it's not going to go away. They don't disappear. So, you know, keep that turkey out there and you know, just fight them. And when you need it, go back and get it. Maybe at half health, or you know, when you feel like you need it, just go and get it. Yeah. So and this was an easy enough. You know, of course, you get your life back when you beat a stage too. So as long as you're going to beat it without, you know, you don't lose your current life, you'll be fine. But yeah, this was pretty simple. I mean, all I really did was use my electric arm here when I had a chance, and he dies, you know. So yeah, that electric arm is fucking great. I mean, Zan is a really good character. He's got some great moves. And of course, a great reach. I don't think he's really the fastest character, but he doesn't need to be. He's very effective with his moveset. So I like Zan a lot. So let's see what's next. I think this is a train. Now this is an annoying level if you're not good at determining which train is going to come next. See, it's the tracks that shake, but some people have trouble discerning which tracks are shaking. So I know Bob Ruppels, when I played with him, was very bad at reading those, so I had to always call out, you know, when we played on 2 boards, I had to call out which train was coming. And I can always tell which one it is. I mean, it's easy to tell, but I mean, I would imagine some people won't pick up on it, so... But you'll see, you'll get used to it. It's the track that you see really jittering a lot. That's the one where the train is going to come. So keep that in mind, and that's going to be the main problem that you're going to have on this area is, you know, just being aware of the trains while you're fighting these guys. You know, always keep that in mind. If you forget about it or start thinking about something else, then you're probably going to get hit by the train, and it does a lot of damage. So you don't want that to happen. And I think there's some whip women on this level, so they're actually very fucking annoying. So yeah, no, there's some hard shit on this level because the whip women are very annoying, and then you got to deal with ninjas a little bit later, which can be very hard, you know, depending on the situation. But you know, there is some bullshit you can pull by getting them to go into the train, which I like to do. But it's just the sheer amount of enemies you have to fight in some parts can make the game tough. You know, and they're aggressive, so... And see, if a guy grabs you like that, you can use your electric to get out of it, but, you know, you may not have enough time if you're on a track where a train is coming. You might just be fucked, you know. Sometimes you got to take the hit. I mean, in general, you just don't want to get grabbed, but, you know, shit does happen in this game. Seeing that back fist move, not really a back fist, but that back attack where he slaps the guy from behind him is also a great crowd control technique. Because it'll get guys off your ass quickly, because it always knocks them back. So, you know, it's a great move. Very useful. And again, I would say look up all these moves in the game fact, on game facts, you know, so you know all the moves. Like, you don't really want, you know, I mean, why try to play it when you don't know all the moves? You know, you're giving yourself a disadvantage. And it's a hard fucking game, so I mean, it really does help to know, to know all your abilities and moves. A lot of times, for a lot of games, I don't always check game facts or whatever. I just try to figure it out as I play it on emulation. But for this one, I suggest actually looking up the moves if you're going to try to work on this. And if you keep at it, you will beat the game for sure. But you want to know all the moves if you can. I mean, you might as well. Eventually, you'll memorize what's coming. You'll have an idea of, you'll learn how to do effective crowd control. That's going to be the main thing that is going to allow you to beat the game, is getting good at crowd control, which is basically just a general skill in this game. It's not so much memorizing the layouts or whatever. It's just knowing how to control, how to deal with crowds well. Because guys come from all different angles and stuff like that. And you saw I rolled down. I think that's tapping down twice or tapping up twice, and you'll be able to roll. And see, I lose a life there. Eventually, sometimes your life just gets worn down. Sometimes you just don't survive until the next health pickup. And like I said, it's fine if that happens. Sometimes it's not going to destroy your run or anything. I would say don't lose a life in the first level, though, because there's really no reason, of course, to lose it on that level. I would say reset if you lose a life on that, but the game does get a lot harder, so. These women are very annoying. Especially when there's more than one of them at any time, can be very annoying because they have that long-range attack. But yeah, if you let the train take care of them occasionally, you can, you do a little extra damage to them. You can also, of course, you probably noticed that I was doing this, you can try to lure guys into the train by standing on the tracks until the last moment. And then, dashing up or just going up real fast when the train is about to come. And because the enemies are slow, they get hit. So it's a good way to deal. It's a good way to cause extra damage to the enemies. Definitely worth doing on this level. And when they get close like that, don't be afraid to use that electric arm to get them off your ass. And see, lining them up, I lined up 3 there. That's very useful to do. I try to wait for them to line up before I use that move. So I lined up 2 that time. And, you'll get more damage overall by doing that. So, I'd say try to do it when you can. This part can be hard because you're in a small area. And sometimes they'll get you stuck by grabbing you, and then you'll get hit by the train, so you got to be careful. But I think I play this part really slow-paced, and I'd actually recommend playing it really patiently if you want to make sure you're not wasting any lives. Just be patient. Get in the hits when you can, but then just go back up in that little alcove and just wait. The biggest damage here with being impatient is, getting greedy, trying to get in extra hits, and then getting hit by the train. So it's just better to go up early than, trying to get as much damage as possible. Unless you're trying to do a speed run or something. But I doubt that if you're watching a tutorial on how to beat the game that you're trying to do a speed run. Yeah, that move is great. It really keeps guys back, and it does a lot of damage. So I use it heavily. And as you can see, I'm just trying to use it as much as I can, even though it drains my life bar slowly, because that turkey is waiting for me. So, I'm trying to really milk that shit, get as much of it as I can. And then at the last moment, get the turkey, which gives me all my life back. See, so I probably could have saved it even a little bit longer, because I probably, I didn't know that those guys were going to come. I thought maybe I had to walk somewhere and then more guys would come. I didn't have it exactly memorized when they would spawn. But, I don't know if it affected me too badly, but I could have saved some health by doing that. Yeah, when you're in that alcove up there, nothing can hurt you. Those guys can't get to you, and the train can't hit you. So, I was thinking of an interesting way to beat this part that might work is just stay in the alcoves and leave the controller somewhere and just go do something else for a while. And eventually, maybe the trains would kill all the guys. But if anybody wants to test that, be my guest. I didn't want to go through all that, but I just wanted to play the fucking game. But if I wanted to be really cheap and exploit the game, I might do something like that. But, I wouldn't do it for a legit playthrough video that I'm making. Because, nobody's going to want to watch that shit. And, I like watching my playthroughs, too, and I don't want to see that shit. But just something to consider if you want to exploit the game. Maybe you can stay up in the alcove, let the train kill everybody, go to the next one, let the train kill everybody. I don't know how fucking long that would take or if it would ultimately work, but I did think about that as a way to exploit this part. I am usually... I'm usually pretty easy, I can usually detect exploits pretty easily. So I definitely thought about doing it. I'm always looking for that kind of shit. I enjoy exploiting games. And you'll notice I pretty much, the only time I really pick up weapons is when it's accidental. I never want weapons in this game. But when Zan gets weapons, he can't use them. That's the thing with Zan. The only thing he can do is throw them as a projectile, which I do use sometimes when the weapons get in the way. But for the most part, I avoid weapons in these games, or at least with this character, I do. Yeah. So now this fight, this is another very hard fight. This is much harder than the two women, I think. This was probably the hardest boss fight in the game for me, I think, from what I remember. It always gave me a lot of trouble until I practiced it. And I still never got good at it, but I got good enough at it to not too bad on it. But I always find it difficult because these guys sometimes can be a little bit unpredictable. And this one's really just going to take some practice, to know to have an idea of what they're going to do next and dodge it. Because, there are different attacks, you dodge them in different ways, as you'll see. You don't want to, be near him when he's going to do that sword move, that jumping sword attack like that. That's a dangerous move. Grabbing them and throwing them seems best because it does the most damage, but I think I was using the electric arm a lot on these guys. What's tough is that each one has multiple life bars and there's 3 of them, so it's a long fight. But they pretty much, do very similar attacks, if not the same attacks. I think one of them may have one different attack or something, but it's very similar. See, but if you can grab them, punch them a few times, and then throw them, you'll do a lot of damage. You do a lot more damage that way if you can do it. But yeah, it's pretty much, it's pretty standard. It's just about learning how to dodge and avoid their attacks and then trying to have them walk up into your area so where you can grab them and damage them or use the electric arm or some punches, as you see me doing. I try to get the grabs in, I think, most of the time because that's... Or what I'll do is 2 or 3 punches and then end it with an electric arm to do the maximum combo damage, but really it would be better if I could grab them, punch them a few times, and then throw them. I think that does the most damage. But it's not always easy to get them like that. You see, that does a lot of damage, but they're not always cooperative with that. But yeah, if you're good enough, you can keep doing, this, and you can take him out a lot faster than I did. Maybe I'll start using that more as I get to this one. I don't remember. I might have even been getting better at it as I was playing on this run. really remember. I did practice it a bit though in save states, but never mastered these guys. You know, I got good enough to where I didn't lose too many lives, and I figured that would be good enough, you know, to beat the game, you know, overall. Because I think these are the hardest boss in the game. Yeah, and that's it for that boss. Mostly just, you know, practice and being able to dodge all his moves. Grab him. Welcome back to part 2 of the Streets of Rage 3 tutorial for normal with Zan. And yeah, the reason I split this up into 2 parts was because as I approach an hour or go over an hour of recording, the AverMedia LGP device has a high chance of losing the entire recording or losing parts of it. So that's why I split it up. But this was done in a single sitting. So yeah, so now this level gets tough. This is a tough level because you have a lot of hard guys and there's a lot of them at once, you know, in pretty small areas. Or maybe the area just feels small because there's so many of these fucking guys, you know, one or the other. You're also going to see some secrets here, like breaking this wall instead of going through the door. I think that's an alternate passage. And see, you get all this good shit. You get 1-ups and points which can lead to 1-ups. So you want to, I would say, take the route that you see me take. You know, just stand by the wall at the end of the level, or I think if you stand by the wall, you'll just go through the wall. So I'll just do that. You'll see some of them I go through the door, some of them I go through the wall, I think. So just follow that path and you'll get some extra shit. Yeah, for these guys, this is all you have to do. You could just keep doing that back punch move. For that, I go through the door. So, and there's a reason why I take these paths. See, there's another one up here. So, yeah, like I said, follow the path that I take so you can get all the 1-ups and the points and shit. And I think Anthropants is the one who told me about that extra 1-up in the wall. I didn't know about that. I believe he was the one who told me about that. So, you know, great advice, because any extra lives is really useful. So, but yeah, once you get one of these guys alone, or if you can group them together to where they're both in the same area and knock them both down at the same time, you can just stand with your back facing them and just constantly back attack them, and they'll never get out of it. It does take a little while, and you will see me exploit it, but it's worth doing. I mean, why take damage when you don't have to? You know, I'm all about just doing whatever the fuck is effective, you know what I mean? That's all I really care about. So yeah, it's also good, of course, to throw these guys into each other and keep them all on one side of the screen. That's what I'm doing there. Then I group them together with that dash move. But I guess by that time they're already dead. But see, but you'll see eventually there'll be like maybe one left, and then I'll exploit that back attack heavily. And you can use that at any time to knock them back. It's good because they block everything else. You know, you don't always know if your hits are going to get through. But if you do that back attack, it's like for some reason it seems like they never block that. So keep that in mind. If you need to get a hit in on them, you need to knock them away. Use that back attack with Zan. I'm assuming the back attack with any character would probably work, but I'm just familiar with using Zan mainly. I did try the other characters, but I ended up using... I did multiple attempts with multiple characters. But yeah, so anyway, yeah. Just keep doing this shit, and you don't have to worry about these guys ever hitting you. You know, it's like you don't... But you don't have to do that. I was getting a little bored with that, you know. But yeah, you can do that. I was trying to make it so it wasn't too boring. I mean, I know it's not the most exciting thing. So I added a few little faster attacks to drain his health faster with that. Even though it wastes a little bit of my health, I just kind of wanted to get it over with. I don't want to sit there for an hour doing that, but you get the idea. You know, if you need to, just do that. If you don't want to risk it. It's always better to play safe when you're trying to beat a game the first time. You know, why make it hard on yourself anyway? I mean, I definitely don't like to do that. If I want to get good at a game, I'll just play it again and again until I master it. But I just wanted to beat this one. I think the reason I stay in this left corner mostly is because I didn't want to spawn more enemies, so I was just trying to deal with these assholes. I also didn't really want the fat guy to rush in, but I guess he did anyway. I think I was trying to avoid him because he can like charge into you and fuck you up, so they are dangerous. But the game is mainly just trying to overwhelm you with sheer numbers of enemies at once. You know, that's the main thing going on here. And as you get good with the crowd control, it won't be too much of a problem. You'll be pretty much used to that by this point in the game. These guys are not any harder than, you know... They're actually easier enemies compared to the whip bitches and the ninjas, so they're not going to cause too much of a problem. The knife guys are annoying. As simple as they are, I find them annoying because, you know... Sometimes my hit doesn't go through and I get knifed by them. I get charged by them and it is annoying. So you got to be careful with those guys. Now notice I don't even pick up the knives to throw them because I don't like having a throwing move because I believe whenever you pick up an item with this guy, he has to throw it. He can't use the weapons. And of course the knife, I don't even know if you can stab with the knife. I think you have to throw the knife. I don't even remember honestly in this game. But with Zan you have to throw every weapon. So what that means is that I can't do one of my main moves. I can't do that electric arm move, I think, because if Zan has a weapon, he won't do the electric arm move. So it pretty much gimps me. It doesn't allow me to do the main move that I like to use for crowd control. So I hate picking up weapons in this with Zan. I always do it on accident, you know, but it's usually never on purpose. Similar to Double Dragon in my 1 credit playthrough, you know, usually when I pick up a weapon, it's an accident because I want to use the elbow in that game, as that, you know, that exploits the entire game, obviously. But yeah, Zan is a great character. He's well balanced. You know, he's not, like I said, he's not the fastest character, but he does have some great moves for crowd control, and he can do a lot of damage to rows of enemies with that electric arm. So I would definitely recommend, you know, using Zan for your first playthrough to beat the game, as Anthropants recommended to me, and you know, and also looking up all the moves on GameFAQs before you start. You know, that way you'll be well prepared to start learning the game, and then just use save and load states to practice the bosses mainly. You know, or just to practice your way through the game. If you can't beat the game, if you can't get far in the game solo, then maybe practice. Just make save states and practice your way through the levels. You know, save and load and just practice. Get familiar with parts, and it all pays off. All that little practice you do that you don't think is helping that much, you'll be surprised how far you get when you play it again. It makes a huge difference. That's how I beat games, is by doing that kind of practice. And the more thorough you do it, the more it'll benefit you. But even if you just do it a little bit here and there on some parts that are a little bit tricky, it'll go a long fucking way, because those would be times when you'd have to restart the entire game, right? Because if you were losing 5 lives on a boss, you might end up having to restart the entire game. So just getting better to where you only die twice on a boss is a lot better than dying 5 times. You know, it may not be great, but it's little improvements like that will get you better and better. So every little bit of practice helps, and you remember more of it than you think you will. You don't think you're going to retain it that well. You know, you think you'll probably forget, or it won't help that much, but no, it really does. You'll be surprised if you start doing it. And I'm going to go into more detail about practice techniques. I did outline it pretty well in the Jim Power video I made, but I want I want to make a video of me actually practicing through a hard game that I've never beaten before. So it'll be new for me, and I'll be able to explain what I'm doing. You know, because if I play through, I'm not going to be able to do a practice run on a game I'm familiar with. I don't really have to practice that much to beat a game that I've already beaten. So it's kind of useless. Yeah, so for here, you're going to have a lot of fucking enemies, and this actually, I think, is a pretty small space. I mean, I don't think you have the same up and down movement that you normally would. I mean, it's wide, but it's kind of narrow. At least it feels that way. But yeah, so there's going to be a lot of enemies in here, though, so your crowd control skill is going to be tested in this room. Yeah, and the knife guys, I think it's worth using the electric arm immediately to get them the fuck out of there because they do a lot of damage and they're very, annoying how they rush in you. It's it's a big nuisance when you're trying to fight other guys. You don't really want to deal with that shit. So I like to get them out of there. And the whip, the whip bitches, I get them out of there immediately because they're a huge problem. When I see them, I just want to kill them immediately because they're going to cause a big problem. They're the most annoying enemies in the game to me, so I consider them a high priority when I see them. Especially when you got like 3 of them in the same fucking room or 4 of them. It's like, you didn't get the fuck out. So here I do get rid of these stupid weapons. I don't think I wanted those weapons, but I think I picked them up because if I didn't pick them up on purpose, I would have picked them up accidentally when I was trying to fight. So that's why I just picked them up, just so I could get rid of them. Just wanted to get that shit out of there. That was all that really was. But yeah, try to keep everybody on one side of the screen, the general strategy that you usually see me doing. And see the kind of range they have and the damage they do. They're dangerous, so I lost a life there. Still haven't lost my first continue yet, though, so I'm still in good shape. I'm not sure when I lose my first continue. I think it's pretty much later in the game, but so I got pretty far on this first continue. But there's plenty of parts later on where I'll lose lives, I'm sure. I'm thinking of doing Hagane soon as my next commentary. And let me know if there's any games on my list that you see, any playthroughs that I did that you'd like to see a commentary for. But I'm probably going to go through and do some of them anyway just for fun. I'll just bang a few of them out. Even the games that are not that hard, I may do some commentary. But I'm probably mainly moving forward going to be focusing on doing commentary for new playthroughs that I'm doing now, because I just got the ability to do commentary. I got a mic, and so now I'm starting to do it. But I'm going to be focusing more on doing new playthroughs. But some of the harder ones I think I definitely should do commentary for. I think it'd be interesting to have a little explanation of some of the techniques. Hagane has some tricky stuff for Super Nintendo. That does have some trick. It's not too hard, but the last few levels can be tough. And the last level especially can be pretty tough because the last boss is tough. But I have some tricks up my sleeves for that game that I can explain. I mean, if you watch the video, you probably figured out what I'm doing anyway, but why not? Why not break it down a little bit? I think it makes it a little bit more entertaining to watch, at least. And it was a lot of fun. It was a fun game to do a playthrough of and beat. So yeah, this, you only really got to fight, I think, 2 enemies at a time. They come in groups of 2. And, these are going to be all standard enemies you've dealt with 100 times before by this point. So, not much to say here. I don't think I got good at this boss guy either, so I may not be able to provide much great advice for him either, Because remember, I only got pretty much as good as I needed to beat the game, and that was about it. I didn't go too far beyond that. For Jim Power, I ended up going a little bit beyond practice-wise for what I needed to do to beat the game, but I also, there's parts where I didn't practice them well at all, and it shows in my playthrough. Even though I beat it on 1 credit, it really shows the parts that I didn't practice enough. Because I got annihilated on some of the parts. But yeah, you're not going to have to be that thorough with this game. This is not an extreme. It's really not an extreme game. But you do want you are going to have to get good at crowd control, and you do want to be competent at the bosses. Because that's where you can really lose a lot of lives on bosses. So you got to get decent at them. You don't have to be a master at all the bosses, but you don't want to be losing a lot of lives. Most of them, I think you shouldn't be losing a life on most of the bosses. You can lose maybe 2 lives on those 3 ninjas, because that's like the hardest boss in the game. It's not a big deal if you lose a few lives on that. Maybe lose one life on the two women. You know, I think that's acceptable. I lost a life on that. So you don't have to be, you know, you don't have to be perfect at the bosses, but you got to be decent. Because like I said, you get some 1-ups, you earn 1-ups on points as well, and you can find some in the game. And actually, I found quite a few of them. I think I also get a 1-up. I should have pointed it out in the tutorial, but I think if you rewatch the part 1 and you see on maybe the second level, you'll see in the beginning I go in the corner and crouch down. There's a hidden 1-up that Anthropans told me about. I think it's in level 2. So don't forget about that one as well. Look for that. I forgot to mention it because I didn't remember about that, but I just remembered it now. Yeah, so now for this part, yeah, I guess I just abused that. I mean, there's not much to say there, right? I mean, I kind of just wait for him to come to me and I use that electric arm. Pretty much just spamming my special attack. You know, not much skill involved here, but I guess it was effective enough for this guy. The missiles are hard because they just keep coming for a while. I think they're kind of tricky, but luckily it's not like Double Dragon where if you get shot with the machine gun you like lose a life instantly or something like that. Which I think is the case in the original Double Dragon. I haven't gotten shot by him in a while because I try to avoid getting shot by a fucking machine gun. You know, it's not really something I want to do when I'm playing a game. But I highly recommend playing Double Dragon Advance for the Game Boy Advance. I still think it's the best beat 'em up I've ever played. It's fucking amazing. Tons of moves. It's a nice length. I highly recommend that if you're looking for. You know, and at first I didn't really like this game that much. I thought it was kind of repetitive, a little bit boring. I wasn't getting into it. I thought it was a lot worse than the other Streets of Rage games. But you know, as I got over the difficulty and started to get a feel for it, I started to really like it. So, if you're, you know, not convinced with this game and you maybe think it's not, you know, not great, I would say it does, you know, it does have the potential to grow on you after a while. As you get better with it and you get more, you know, you get more satisfaction out of it. I still think there's a little bit too much combat in the game with the enemies. I feel like you fight them for too long. And I think it would have been better with a more balanced difficulty. I think it would have been more enjoyable at least. But I also kind of like that it was as hard as it was because it was a satisfying game to beat. So you know, I do love a challenge, so I can't really hate on the game for that. But I still think some of it is a bit repetitive. I don't think it just. I didn't, for whatever reason, it wasn't as fun to me as some of the other Streets of Rage games. But like Streets of Rage 2 feels more enjoyable to me. The layout, I don't know. It's hard for me to say exactly why I feel that way. So yeah, this one is kind of like a timed mission. Somewhat, you see that little clock down there, and it can be kind of annoying because if you don't go like in the right doors, you waste time. So I'm thinking that I pretty much. I don't always go in the right doors, but see, that's the correct door. So I guess if you follow what I'm doing, you may be taking the correct path. I'm not sure if the rooms change randomly every time you play. See, I don't remember exactly, but you do have to do it within a certain amount of time. And the fastest way I find to take care of these groups of enemies is, like usual, get them all in the same corner and just, you know, beat the shit out of them. Use your special, and you know, pretty basic by this point in the game. And you have to destroy all those machines. That's, you know, that's required. And then pretty much you have to kill these guys to advance again, so you can go back to the elevator and, you know, go to the next area. Which we'll see if I took the right path, because there's times when I would get far, but I would fuck up this level and take the wrong path. And then worst case scenario usually is you'll just lose a life by running out of time. Usually only lose one life, but why waste an entire life, you know, for running out of time? It's not worth doing. If you could avoid it, you want all the lives you can get, so don't fuck around, you know what I mean? Try not to fuck it up. But of course you're never trying to fuck up, you know. Nobody ever wants to fuck up when they're playing a game, but you got to pay a little bit of attention to this part and try to take the right path at least. But yeah, I don't think I really ever understood this level that well, to be honest with you. I don't think I had a really good grasp on it. I was able to do it, you know, I got good enough at it to where it wasn't a big problem, so. As long as you can manage it and just beat the game, I mean, you know, at that point it's good enough. If you want to master the game, you can always go back to it. I wouldn't mind trying the Mania difficulty. They have harder settings. I think the Mania is an unlockable difficulty after hard. Like, I think you might even need a code to access it. You know, most cheat codes make games easier, but in these games, they have codes for harder difficulties, which is kind of unique. Kind of a funny thing, but, you know, putting in a code to make the game harder. I wouldn't exactly call that cheating if you put in a code to make a game harder, but some people may actually consider that like a cheat code, like you're cheating or something. I've heard bizarre theories about shit like that. People come up with a lot of weird shit, but yeah. Mania seems pretty insane from what I've heard. I haven't tried the harder settings too much. I don't know if I didn't try Mania, but I'm assuming it's very hard. But that guy Anthropants, he's fucking great at these games. You know, he does them with no death on Mania, I think, with all the characters. Very cool, like I said. Definitely check it out. So yeah, after you rescue this tuxedo asshole, then you'll be on the boss. You know, just take. I would say, yeah, I guess I did do the path right that time. So just try to follow the rooms I went in, all that bullshit. And I guess that'll give you a good chance. Like I said, it may be random. Maybe a little random. I'm not sure. I think it's usually pretty much the same shit every time, but I do not remember exactly. Now, for this part, you got all these black assholes. I think they endlessly respawn, so don't worry about the guys in black. The only one you have to kill is the purple guy, so just focus all your attacks. You know, try to only attack the purple guy if you can. I was trying to get rid of them because they do get in the way, so, you know, sometimes I try to get them off my back. But, you know, if you're really good at avoiding them, you can just focus on the one guy. And you'll be fine. Actually, my boss domination series, where I post dominations of bosses where I really beat the shit out of them well. I have a video with this boss where I think I didn't get hit at all because I got him in a loop where he couldn't get out of, and I just beat the shit out of him, and all his enemies rushed into my fists and kept getting punched as well. So I just punched the shit out of him while he's in the air. That was really cool. I think that might have been with Shiva though, or one of the the boss characters can pull bullshit. So it's not really as legit as playing the game. So yeah, here I waste my first continue, but at this point we're only 18 minutes away from beating the game, or maybe less, because that's probably counting the ending too. But yeah, we're very we're far in the game, so losing a continue here is not bad. You know, because now I have another 4 lives or whatever. But the first continue is not bad. But yeah, this fight did not go well on this playthrough. I can tell. So see, even if you do fuck up here and there, you can still get through the game. But you just want to get competent enough, because I'd say it's a very hard beat 'em up. But yeah, like 1 and 2, very moderate, even kind of easy games to just beat on normal, or maybe moderate. I don't know if I'd say easy. Easy is maybe being a little bit overly, I don't know, but I would say maybe they're like moderate games, but they're not hard. You can, if you're decent at beat 'em ups, you can beat 1 and 2 after a few tries, maybe a few full attempts, maybe within 3 full attempts, and maybe even 1 or 2, depending how good you are. But yeah, they're not hard games to beat on one player. I beat the second one, I think, and the first one when I was young, and I wasn't that good at games back then. So yeah, not hard. Now, this level can be tough because, you got all these ninjas and the motorcycle guys. But the part that's kind of always gave me trouble was when you go inside the building and you have to deal with all these robot guys and guys with guns, and that can be annoying. Because you're also on conveyor belts the whole time, and the guys are always running away from you, so you got to keep chasing them down, you get in a hit here and there, and then you go flying, you get knocked back. So, yeah, this level's a little tricky. I guess it's one of the harder levels, as far as the level itself goes. The boss, I don't know if the boss is anything special. I don't remember. I don't even remember if this is the last level or not, honestly. It's been a few months, so you'll have to bear with me on I'm kind of just watching the video, and it's spurring memories in me again because I haven't played in a while. So I'm trying to remember as I go. I probably should have watched the video first, but I figured this would be... I think it's good enough. I mean, I'm getting the information out that I think will help people, who are trying to beat the game. Moving forward, though, I'm not going to be doing commentary on games that I beat a long time ago. You know what I mean? Like, this was only a few months, but I'm going to be doing commentary on games that I just freshly beat. You know what I mean? I'll probably be doing it within a few days of beating a game. But that's just because I just got the mic, so now I'm trying to catch up a little bit, and I'm redoing. You know, I'm going back to some of the old videos and trying to add commentary. I mean, like my Jim Power video, I thought it was like something like 2 years since I beat Jim Power. It was actually like 3.5 fucking years. So I went back to the Jim Power video 3.5 years later and added commentary. So I think it came out pretty decent, you know, considering it's been 3.5 years since I played the game, you know. But like I said, that's not going to be something. That's not going to be something that's going to happen much more. You know, it's just now that I'm trying to catch up. But my future playthroughs should be. They should be fresh in my mind. So I should be able to give some better tutorials. So yeah, they're not going to be as good as they could be on these games. But I think it's better than nothing, you know. And I don't think it's really worth watching the whole video first and, you know, rehearsing it and all this shit. I think it's going to be good enough. I mean, these videos are also pretty self-explanatory on a lot of these games. I mean, you can kind of figure out a lot of what I'm doing. It's not too hard, but I do like breaking shit down. I think it's great to share information about this guy. I like I've gained so much on YouTube over the years watching playthroughs, and you know, it's helped me to beat so many games as well, with parts that I was having trouble with. I found great tactics and strategies. And yeah, and what a lot of people don't realize, you know, is that even the top players, they share strategies in a community to get the best. You know what I mean? They're not just the best players. For example, when I made it to World Rank 19 in Ninja Gaiden Black for the original Xbox. You know, I spent over 600 hours on that one game. That also included running time, like leaving it running and stuff. So it wasn't all playtime 600 hours, but it was hundreds of hours. So when I played that, I went on a forum, a Ninja Gaiden Black forum called Iberian Warrior or something forums, or a Iberian forum, something like that. And it was a Ninja Gaiden forum, you know, dedicated to, and most of the, you know, the top players, the best players in the world, like #1 and such, would be on that forum. And they learned, they were constantly refining techniques and learning off of each other and then perfecting techniques off of each other, right? So these guys weren't just coming up with their own shit and just being the best players in the world. You know what I mean? A lot of people think that it's a solo kind of thing, and it's really, and I think in most cases it's not. You know what I mean? So those that say that there's something, you know, bad about going online to learn new tactics or whatever, I mean, you know, the top players in the world are doing it. So, you know, if you're going to say it makes a bad player, I don't know if I would agree with that. You know what I mean? Because the best players are doing it. So that's why I say, you know, I think it's great that we can share information like this now, learn and improve, get better. You know, we can constantly improve our game and become better players. And I try to learn from others as well, you know. I never think that I have all the answers. And I'm glad that if I can contribute things that I've learned, which it's not all shit that I figured out myself, you know what I mean? But whatever it is that I put together with whatever information or tools that I had, I like to be able to present that and offer something from that. You know, I think it's great to be able to do that. But yeah, I never take full credit for anything, because, you know, there's a lot of things that go into, you know, a lot of this. And if I didn't have the tools that we now have available, you know, I would have to go about it in a different way. And I may not even, some of the games that I beat, I may have not even beaten in the way that I did, because I wouldn't, you know, without that information, you know, things could have been different. So yeah, I say that I don't consider it a weakness to like get information online and watch videos and shit like that. If a game is truly hard, trust me, watching a video is not going to beat the game for you. And I learned that with some super hard games, like, you know, God of War 2 on Titan was disgustingly hard for me. And I watched tons of videos on it. And, you know, it still doesn't take the sting away from fighting a boss for 15 minutes and dying in one hit, like the Thesis boss. So, you know, and like I said, I've done some pretty brutal challenges that I've completed. Like the Ninja Gaiden Black was probably the most disgusting thing I've ever done in gaming. But and I love doing that kind of shit, and I've played through, you know, over 1,000 console games and console-style type of games, arcade console-style games, and, you know, I'm still getting better and learning to adapt faster, and to me, there's nothing wrong with looking up, you know, guides or whatever. Now, if the whole game is like a puzzle game, like Portal or Portal 2, I think it kind of ruins the game to look up every fucking puzzle. I mean, at that point, it's just like a walkthrough, because there's not much skill involved in Portal except for figuring out the puzzles. That is the skill. So, you know, for certain games, I do think it kind of takes away the fun of the game. But I mean, I still consider if I were to watch a guide and beat the whole thing with a guide, I'd still write it down that I beat the game because I played through it and beat it. But I think you're kind of shortchanging yourself on the fun you could be having with a game like that, because that game was so fun to figure out, and I really enjoyed it. And I may have used the guide, I think maybe only 2 or 3 times in Portal 2 or something, but I really tried not to use it. I wanted to really figure out shit for myself because it was such a good game, and I love that game. Portal 2 is amazing, man. It's really fun. Catherine was another amazing puzzle game. Amazing game. I mean, it's hard to learn at first, but give it a chance, man. Try Catherine, just give it a chance. And it's so satisfying once you start beating levels. I had a lot of trouble with it initially. I had to beat it on easy. Is the level I couldn't even I couldn't do much on normal initially. But I would like to go back. They're going to do a remaster of it, and maybe I'll revisit it on the remaster and make videos and try to do normal next. I'm not going to go straight to hard. I like to do it in steps. I do have a weird habit of going from normal to the extreme setting. So, like, when I play a new game, I may do... Actually, most new games now, I start on the hard mode, even sometimes the hardest mode, because the extreme modes are not that hard anymore in these new games. Most of them, anyway. There are a few exceptions. But what I used to do is play a game through on normal, and then I'd go to the hardest mode right away, and then I would just deal with it. I would just grind through it until I learned it and beat it. I don't like to necessarily do 4 or 5 playthroughs to get to the hardest mode. I usually will do it by the second playthrough. But anyway, the reason I wasn't saying much on this level because, I think we get the general idea by now. I've explained most. You don't want those guys to explode on you, so when they're about to die, get away from them. But you'll learn that after the first explosion. I don't really need to tell you that. And that area is one of the harder parts because of all those fucking conveyor belts and those assholes with the guns, because they will keep trying to shoot you. So try to take those guys out first and, try to get your hits in on the robots and throw them when you can, because that does the most damage. But yeah, that's about it. I mean, you're going to just have to get used to the conveyor belts and dodging some of the obstacles. And that's just going to be a little bit of practice to get it down. But it's not that bad. It's more of an annoying and tedious area. I mean, I don't really like it, but it's not super hard or anything, but it is annoying. So, but yeah, I am going to be rambling about other shit sometimes in these videos when I don't have anything to really say regarding the game. I may add in some other stuff. Gives me a chance to talk about some other of my history with playing games, and maybe games that I recommend that I think people would enjoy. Which there's too many to list, but those games just kind of popped into my head. I was talking about puzzle games for some fucking reason, so I just decided to throw that in. But yeah, so let's see what's coming up next. I don't even remember. I think this is actually the last boss. I think. I guess the ending is really fucking long, like 7 minutes long or something, 6 minutes long. I guess that's not that long. But yeah, so this is the end. So for this, you pretty much just keep walking, then you stop and you jump and just do that attack. That jumping attack, does good damage to him. You want to make sure you have enough walking room, which if you practice, you'll know. And you want to walk slow sometimes because if you get to the end of the screen and then try to walk back, that's when it'll get you sometimes. See, like that was dangerous. So you want to try to avoid that. You want to try to keep it more in the middle. So try to give yourself a lot of room. Like, see, I'm all the way here. I got that whole screen to walk now, and because it's based on a certain amount of time before it comes down again. So just, adapt to that. You'll know how it works. It's not hard. It's just you just have to know what to do. But it's very easy. Sometimes the thing is hard to hit. Like if you do the wrong jumping attack on it, like if you try to do the wrong attack, you won't really be able to hit it. But if you do what I'm doing here, I think that's jump and then down and punch, if I remember right. I don't think that's the regular jumping attack. I think it might be like jump, down, and punch. That's why I say knowing the moves is important in this game. But yeah, just make sure you're doing the move that you see. Make sure it looks like that. If you're not doing that move, then you're not doing it the way that I played it, at least. Maybe there's a better method, but if you're trying to follow what I'm doing, make sure you're doing that exact move, because the regular jump attack does not work well. And I like to stay all the way on this bottom, as you see, because I find it just easier to hit him than trying to move in being lined up perfectly up or down is hard to do. So yeah, that's pretty much. I don't think I got hit on that. That's all you really need to do. That's an easy way to do it. Now, this guy can be very hard. This is why it's good to have some lives left. But there is a way to exploit him and get him in a cycle that he cannot get out of with jump kicks, I think. I think you'll see me do a little bit of that on him, if I remember right. But he does break out. Like, see, if you keep doing a jump attack, see, like that. If you're good at that, you can just keep doing that until he dies. And he won't be able to recover. See, you can do that to the end of the fight. And that's what I was trying to do. But I failed miserably. But that was what I wanted to fucking do. Because you only have a certain amount of time, and I think I probably ran out of time fighting him. But I did have a lot of lives left, so I was good as far as my lives go. But it does very small fucking damage. I mean, as you see, almost no damage. But you just do it for a long time, and you'll make your life a lot easier on his boss. Because if you don't do that, he can be hard to predict. He can be very hard to fight normally. I thought he was. I didn't practice him a shitload. I only practiced it a little bit, but I think Zan's jumping attack is harder to use on this boss. So that's one area where Zan is kind of weak, is with the final boss trying to spam the jumping attack. He's not the best for that. I think Axel has a jump kick which has, a longer reach. Zan has that little shit that's super close up. It's harder to time, but it's doable. I still recommend Zan for beating the game because he makes the game, I think he makes the game a lot easier overall. Maybe not easy. I don't know. I played a lot better with Zan. I know that. I liked his crowd control techniques and his long reach. Some people may be more comfortable with one of the other characters, obviously. It could have to do with playstyle as well. So I wouldn't say Zan is definitively the best character to beat the game with your first time, but Antropants recommended him to me, and once I used him, I was doing a lot better, so I would make the same recommendation. And then after you beat it with Zan, you can try other characters, you can try the harder difficulties. There's a lot of replay if you like the game. Because after this, you can do hard, then you can do mania. There may be hard, hardest, mania. I don't remember. There's a few difficulty settings after normal, though. So you can work your way up and try to beat some of the harder shit. And if you're fucking crazy, you can do no death runs and shit on mania like Antropants. But I imagine that took many, many hours to get down. That's a lot of dedication. Very cool, though. I'm usually not that dedicated to a single game. Ninja Gaiden Black was an exception for me, but as I said, I usually only go through the hardest difficulty in a game, or just beat a hard game, and then I'm usually done. I don't do a lot of extra challenges and such usually. But I'm going to start doing more shit now that I can record. It's inspired me to do a lot of crazy shit that because back then if I did it, I didn't have a recording of it, so it wasn't as exciting. Now I get to actually have a permanent recording of my accomplishment, which to me is awesome. I love it. So it makes me want to do some hard shit now. Harder than I normally would. It's definitely, I found it to be inspirational. Just recording, I think, is a great thing to be able to do. I wanted to do it for myself, not even because of YouTube. I wanted to record my gameplay footage just to have for myself. But, yeah, so that's it. I did run out of time. I think I get the bad ending or whatever, but I never give a fuck about good or bad endings. In fact, I usually skip endings in games and just write them down. I just like beating games. I'm not one that really gives a shit about story in games. I used to enjoy some stories in older games like RPGs, but nowadays I find I have no patience for watching a story anymore. I couldn't be any less interested. I'm really just interested in gameplay now, so I beat the game as Zan the Ass, as shown. But yeah, thanks for watching this, man. It's very cool to we see a few people watching it. I assume a few people got something out of it. Even if they're not trying to work on the game, they may just enjoy watching it with a little bit of commentary, getting to know the player behind the channel a little bit. But yeah, I guess I'll continue the commentary until the full ending, just so it lines up properly, because I want the audio track to line up properly. I don't really know how to sync audio tracks, so I'll let my audio recording just run the full length, even if I don't really have anything else to say further. But yeah, I guess this is the bad ending. I would have skipped all this too, but you know the game doesn't really let you. I could have just pressed the escape button at this point, but sometimes I leave endings and shit in because I figure there's some people like to watch that stuff. You know, I mean, I don't like to watch it, but I figure some people like to see the end of the game. I check channels sometimes too because I'm curious about the end of the game, or I like to see what the later levels looked like. Because when I was young, I played a lot of games, but I didn't get to see very far because I couldn't get very far in a lot of games. They were fucking hard back then. Yeah, so anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and stay tuned for future playthroughs and many bizarre commentaries as well.